Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 137 for February 24th, 2015. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of this podcast, and today I'm joined by
Bernd, the special guest coordinator, and this week gonna be the editor of this shindig, for lack of words
this
I can't use.
absolute disaster of a show that is going to just happen right now, let me tell you. Alright, so here's the deal. It's just us two again. It's the RnB show part 2. That might be the episode title unless we come up with something better. And yeah, so it's just us staring into cameras. I put on my wings for funsies. Bernd has got his ponies stacked up there on the side of him. I wish I could show you like the setup that we have right now. So before we even start, like I'd like to talk about the setup that we have. So, you know, we've got 2 monitors each. So if you see me looking off to the left, it's because I'm looking off at my other monitor. But basically, we've got this monitor on the left. We've got Bernd I'm FaceTiming Bernd right now. we're recording ourselves. It's just
like look at this. Like got a little phone. Like say hi, Max.
Hi.
Oh God.
Yeah. So like we're FaceTiming each other. We're talking on Skype, and we're recording ourselves webcamming. So it's going to be a really interesting experience, to say the least.
It's gonna be ridiculous. And I'm all giddy. So I can sit here.
We're gonna be happy, man. Happy. We've got the
around.
wings. We've got the plushies. We've got tons of stuff. I mean, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. All right. So I guess we should talk about why the other 2 are away and why it's just us 2 ridiculous people doing this podcast thing. So first of all, I'll do Ted and you do Joel. Don't read into that. So Ted is off in Barbados right now. Actually, he's not off in Barbados technically at time of recording. He's flying out tomorrow, Saturday, the 21st. So he's going to be away for like a week or so. So this episode and next episode, he's not going to be on the podcast. So because he's off being a jerk, taking a vacation, and not taking me to
like
Barbados.
Sunny, beautiful weather. Like what gives?
Yeah. So I think it goes without saying that everybody needs to leave a comment on this video saying that. Ted is a jerk and should have taken us to Barbados.
Yep, that's true.
I think that's fair, right, Bernd?
Yeah, who am I supposed to ship this box to?
Exactly. Oh, you've got a box. Do we want to tease the box and leave it until later?
Just tease it, maybe
just tease
show
it,
like an edge of it on stream.
Oh, tease it. Ooh, I like it. All right. Bernd, where's Joel?
Okay, so Joel is basically drowning.
Oh,
yeah. Basically all of
okay.
Australia is drowning right now in
true.
horrible water.
It's true.
Something. It's like
cyclone.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, because it wasn't a hurricane, but basically there's a big, huge windy thing dropping tons of rain in Australia, and water doesn't absorb well on that continent, so there's flooding everywhere.
The rules of absorption don't apply.
Nazagoreng couldn't even make it to the convention.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, no, Joel is actually Atmospark is at the convention. Or did he make it there?
PonyCon AU.
Yeah, so that's why he's not here. He's going to the Australian PonyCon, BronyCon, PonyCon.
Yeah. So that's cool.
It's very
so
cool.
yeah, I mean, you just talked about it briefly, but the whole Nazagoreng thing was really awful.
Yeah.
So first of all, Australia in terms of cons has done awfully this year.
Yeah, it's such a bad track record.
Like okay, so there was what was it called? Like I know it was called Salvage Con afterwards, but what was it supposed to be? Do you remember?
No.
Anyways,
I only know it as Salvage Con.
Yeah, so same. So like there was that convention that Joel and Silver were and Nazagoreng were supposed to go to, that was called something, and then it ended up bailing 2 weeks before, but everybody had their tickets and their hotel rooms already booked, so they all went there anyways and had Salvage Con. So that sucked. And then this one's happening in the middle of like a huge cyclone. Like I was talking to Silver earlier, Bernd, and apparently these kind of storms happen occasionally, and all of the sand on the beaches are just gone. Like it's just rocks. Like all the sand has just been blown up and like into the neighborhoods.
When the weather gets cruddy, the whole continent gets cruddy.
Right. Like the sand is literally gone, and there's just like a 10-foot drop and then rocks.
Everyone has to pay.
Like it's crazy. So like it's really awful weather. From what I heard, Nazagoreng was trying to go to the con driving there, but there was just floods everywhere, and so she couldn't physically get to the convention. That sucks so much. So yeah, I mean, shout out to our Australian friends. I'm so sorry if you are trying to get to a convention. You know, it's great that there are conventions finally down there for you guys, but holy cow, you guys have bad luck so far.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be safe. We wish you well.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So, yeah, for this week it'll just be the two of us, and I think next week Joel is back, and then the week after that Ted is back. So we will have a full crew in a couple of weeks, but until then it's just you and me, buddy.
Yep.
Hey.
Hey.
If you guys didn't
That's
see
good.
our previous episode, we did one called the R&B show. Are my wings all janky? I think they are.
I'm like messing with my webcam, trying to get it like perfect. Gotta
You
get
need
centered.
We're see
Trying
the
to,
thing
like-
is,
So well, like, it's funny because like I gotta like I'm trying to like sit up straight, but like my
Yeah.
chair's not really like made for that.
Yeah.
I have my chair like set for like lounging.
so
I
part
gotta,
of the
like-
problem of like doing all of this while talking to someone else is that I want to look at you and talk to you when we're
Yeah.
talking, right? But
Yeah.
you're over here to the left,
Yeah.
whereas like the camera's here. So I want to talk to the camera because I want to talk to our lovely audience members who are looking very
Yeah.
beautiful today. I might add. Like
I
wow.
should be looking up at the camera right now. I'm just been looking at myself and I'm completely
That's
ignoring
that's
you. I'm
what
sorry.
that's the thing,
It's
right? Like,
really hard when you have this really
you
beautiful
have
guy
to
on
put
your
it behind
screen, and I
put
just,
it behind
I just
your
can't look
monitors.
away.
That's what I did. I don't have it open at any because you just
Oh
instinctively
yeah, I could just
look at yourself.
Yeah, I minimize it. There we
Yeah,
go.
you
Oh
just-
man, but now
yeah.
there's this beautiful OC on my
No,
wallpaper.
you have to minimize it, or else you're always going to keep looking at it.
Yeah,
so
I
I'm going to
did.
try to
That
keep
was
as
a good
much
idea.
eye contact with the camera when I'm not looking at art
Man,
pieces. as
it's
possible.
hard being too beautiful, you know, and you just can't stop looking at yourself. Like,
All right, so if you're going to talk about how beautiful you are, can we mention the fact that I think my haircut is much better than the last time
have we
that I
mentioned your
recorded
wings
myself?
yet? Did we? Talk?
Yeah, we mentioned them.
Okay, I just didn't even know.
What of it?
But yeah, no, your haircut's
wings.
looking snazzy. I like it.
Yeah, I really do. I really like it as well.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
I look
I'm liking what my hair's like right now. And regardless of what you say, it's not like it was last show. I
It's true.
refuse to
It's
believe
true.
it.
Well, no,
'Cause,
you got a nice new haircut.
I have like the sides. Oh my god, I sound so weird with my headset off. No, like I recorded so many episodes with headphones on that I forgot
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I sound like with headphones off. Oh my
I
goodness.
forget. I
Just
never
like my
talk
radio
when I'm
voice.
not doing a podcast.
Ugh. Anyway, I've got like.
Put your
shorter
headphones
sides
on.
out.
You can't hear me.
I can hear you. These things are loud. The whole show could hear you there. The echo. But anyway, but yeah, no, I'm trying something new. I might stick with this till BronyCon. We'll see. So. I'm sorry.
I want to
That's like-
touch your luscious locks.
Oh, thank you.
I
Everyone
I'm
at
looking-
BronyCon, if you're there, you can cop a feel.
Really? Did you just give people permission to do that? That's
If they
dumb.
want to pet my hair and hopefully,
in a very polite way.
yeah, in a very
with
polite way,
with consent.
preferably if you're a very attractive woman.
Wow, just being completely upfront about that.
I'm just
You know-
gonna be a complete jerk this episode.
You know, it's funny because like I was just about to mention that I'm looking forward to this episode just because the last time that we put up an episode with our faces, we got like 8 comments about how attractive we were.
Oh yes,
And I was
please
like-
keep it coming, please.
I was
My
like,
ego.
ooh, little ego
Yes,
boost,
let
little
me just,
ego
like-
boost. So we should probably, you know what I just realized, Bernd?
Hmm.
We're gonna have no semblance of time.
No,
We're gonna have no semblance of time. So
I
this-
mean, I do have Audacity over there, like silently reminding me, like it's been 12 minutes.
okay.
But-
So
Oh wait, no, we've left Audacity running
We
for
left-
like a long time.
we left Audacity running for like 5
How
minutes.
long have
so-
we been BSing?
All right, let's assume that we've been BSing for 8 minutes,
Yeah.
and because that way I can time it properly using our Skype call time. So we'll just assume that, and if we go long, then we go long. All right?
All right. Go
Cool.
long, go hard.
Yep, definitely. What is this, football? Like I don't know. All right. So yeah, I think that's everything that we need to talk about. So we both brought 2 art pieces today. We got 2 questions. We got a jam-packed show for you guys. So yeah, enjoy.
Hold on, Max, you're sitting on my Kleenexes. Hang on.
Oh, you need your Kleenexes.
I've been sick, so like I'm just now feeling better, but my nose is still really runny, so I'm kind of like sitting here like.
It's true.
I gotta like do
It's
one
true.
of these real quick. Everyone can see me pick my nose real quick.
It's lovely. They can just look at
We're
my
good.
screen.
My nose is running. We're good. Yeah, watch them dance. All this cut to your screen. All right, I'm good. I'm good. I'm set. That's what I needed.
I was gonna wear ears, but they look like crap. All right. I hope people appreciate the wings, by the way. I
Yeah,
like to make myself look ridiculous.
You've
for other
basically
people's
gone the
entertainment.
extra mile, so like.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I like
You
that.
went the extra mile by
I mean-
actually showing up, so.
I try my hardest. Like
Yeah.
I guess I could. Yeah, I'll just record the whole show like this, right?
There you go. That's cute. That's cute.
I'm so full of myself.
That's cute.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to the art. Again, we both brought 2 art pieces. So the very first art piece today is mine. We're going to alternate, and it's called Her Season by Shaman Guli. So Shaman Guli is an artist that I saw recently because he made me a wonderful birthday present my last birthday. And before that, I had no idea who he was. And it's really awesome because I feel like he has introduced himself to me as this really interesting artist who loves to do like big backgrounds, like big, huge backgrounds with like little tiny ponies somewhere in them. He kind of reminds me of like Aaron JVL did that a little bit,
Mhm.
Rain Gear did that a little bit. And so this is one of those pieces. It reminds me of what's happening like across all of North America right now, which is that we're
Yeah,
just getting horrible amounts of snow.
absolutely destroyed by cold.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been freezing where I am. I know it's been horribly snowing where like in the Northeast where Ted is. So
Yep. It's
this
like
kind of reminded me of that.
it hasn't moved up here to the Pacific Northwest yet, but I feel like it's going to, and it's gonna
But
suck because it's just getting
yeah,
warm right now.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is a really beautiful snowy piece. It's got some really interesting things going for it, and yes, that is Luna there in the middle. So it technically does count as a pony piece. So gotcha.
Technically.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna start off with Bernd here because I've got a couple things to say, but I don't want to take up all the time here. So
Yep.
go ahead.
First thing I noticed, I guess, is like the main colors of everything. So I mean, the whole piece looks like it's done in just like blue and yellow, right? And then it plays
Right,
with
right.
like values of that. Because I mean, snow's really, really hard to do because, you know, we think of it as this white object, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's never totally white because there's always some kind of color around it or stuff around it. So like the awesome things that artists can do to try to show snow is a lot of fun. So I really like this where it's like the blue setting, blue sky, light blue snow, and then you have the yellow sun, and so it's like that blue and yellow,
Yeah.
those primaries, you know.
Yeah, this is a really good example, I think, of a case where you don't use like crazy amounts of saturation and value, and it doesn't like stand out. Like when I think of amateur artists doing snow, I think of them doing it like way too bright white, and when I think of amateur artists doing sky, I think of it being like way too dark black. Like absolute black.
Yeah.
And in this piece, it's neither. You've got the snow, which is kind of like alternates between kind of like yellow tinges that where the light hits and like this softer blue, this kind of lightish blue, and then the sky is this kind of deeper blue, but it's never too crazy, and
Yeah.
it never feels like way too oversaturated or way too overvalued, which I
It
think
would
is the only time we've ever said the word overvalued before.
Overvalued, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not even sure that's how you can use that word, but I like it.
I like it too. Bernd, haven't you learned after 137 episodes that sometimes we just make terms up because they
I
sound
pretty
good?
much do that every single episode.
Yep.
People think I sound smart, know what I'm talking about. I honestly just make up
Because
all
you
these
just need to
words.
sound smart, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. Like dynamic. Like I probably put dynamic in front of every single artistic term, and it makes
The
me
amount
sound
of
so
times
smart.
you've described a piece as painterly is kind of off the charts.
All right, moving forwards. So, no, like the sky. It is the most. I would say it's the most saturated part,
Right,
like
yeah.
most saturated color, because it looks
Yeah.
like the deepest
Yeah.
place in this piece, which is nice because as the kind of the sky and clouds desaturate things and become a little less colored. It makes that sense of like there's clouds there, like there's atmospheric perspective, like there's atmosphere getting in the way. And it also makes it look like this kind of like eerie fog in the background too, where like instead of like clouds in the distance, I get this feeling like it's just kind of like fog bank or cloud bank in the distance, because it's
Even
not
like
really
a little bit of a
represented
snowstorm, maybe.
anywhere else. Yeah, like a snowstorm or something rolling in.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
pretty good. So like that in the sunset creates kind of this cool effect because then it isn't present in the sky that's above Luna. So like sky's in like this clearing and like this clear zone kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I do like how there's a sense of depth in this piece because I feel like certain parts of the piece they might not have been manually blurred, but they look kind of out of focus. So the snowstorms in the background kind of give this sense of out of focus, and there's also a bit near the front that I think kind of feels a little bit out of focus. And what that does is it brings you into the parts of the pieces that is in focus, which is the lake, the pony, and the sky.
Mhm. And what I can see is like since this is a really snowy, it could take place in like the South or North Pole or somewhere where they doesn't get a lot of sun, and that's kind of what I see in this because like when I used to live in Alaska and like you see Arctic stuff all the time, the sun is always like right there on the horizon. It's never anywhere else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's not true, but it feels like it is because it's there so often because
It's not the same.
it doesn't go up as high in the sky and it's always skirting low, sometimes over the mountains, over the horizon.
Yeah.
So like that's what this feels like. You know, it's this Arctic area, and even the title of the piece, Her Season. So like in the winter months, there's not as much sun. So it's like it's her season because it's night more often, so the moon is up, and you can actually see the moon off to the right there.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a cute touch.
Yeah, it's really subtle. And
So
I
it's
think
like,
I think
even
it's
though
really
the sun sets, you know, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. I think that there's some nice subtle things in this piece that really help make certain things pop. You know, like that moon just being at like a slightly more blue hue than the kind of cloud puffs around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost made in a similar way, you know. But it because of the difference in hue, it kind of like pops out just a little bit. Not enough to take your attention away necessarily, but just a little bit to look over there and go, "Oh yeah, is that the moon?" You know. In a similar way, Luna's got these kind of purple streaks that is inherent to her character, but they look really nice, but they're not too overbearing. It's not like look at this purple thing. It's more like just enough to kind of blend a little bit, but also grab a little bit of your attention.
Yeah.
So that's really nice.
Everything seems so smooth.
Yeah. There's everything I think is smooth in general, and I think that kind of lends itself nicely to the environment that they're in, because where they are, you've got this kind of, you don't have a lot of jagged edges. They're not near like the glaciers or the large chunks of ice. It's more like it's almost like snow dunes,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what I see it as, is, snow dunes in the background, but, like, how they're drawn, they're almost drawn mountainous, like there are mountains in the distance, you know what I mean?
Right,
so it makes the scene very interesting, because you have, like, what I assume is water there in the middle, like, kind of this water going up to the edge of these mountains, and then, like, deeper peaks off in the distance that seem to actually recede below this, like, water level.
Yeah, so it's really weird, because it does look like mountains, and so that gives you the sense that what you're seeing behind the character is so much farther away. But then you're right, that water level almost seems to dip above it in a way.
Yeah, and fun fact, there actually aren't mountains on the polar caps.
No, you don't say. You don't say. Yeah.
I mean, it could be like some kind of like dreamscape,
Yeah.
Luna, dreamscape.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be remiss if I didn't mention, I think this piece leans a little bit more towards yellow, but I think it does have a lot of elements of blorange. Shaman Guli mentions in the description that the one thing that he's learned this year is that blue and orange go well together. And I think that this is a great piece to demonstrate that, Even though they're opposites, they complement each other really, really well, and they give this nice kind of dichotomy of warm and cool.
Yeah, because like I would say like it's like a yellow orange, and then it's like a purple blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it still complements.
Yeah, because like there's like the blue like in my OC's hair, right? And like that's like blue, like navy blue, and then the complement of that would be like super orange. Like Rainbow Dash's hair orange, right?
Yes.
But in this piece, it's kind of like it's a more subtle, not as navy blue. It's kind of pushed a little bit towards purple. So its complement, the orange, is pushed a little bit more towards yellow, which is what we see in here. So I called it yellow at first just because when I think sun, I think yellow. And
same.
It's a sunset.
Same.
It's definitely very orange, and it is kind of like a complement that offsets each other.
Yeah. No, I think it's that's a really interesting point. I didn't even think about that, but even though they're slightly shifted, they're still shifted kind of in an equal amount, and so they're still complements.
And what's really interesting too is if you notice where the orange and blue kind of meet and like blend with each other and start to where the orange starts to fade and gradient away and then blend in with the blue, it creates kind of like a neutral, kind of like a gray, which I've talked about before, where when you mix complements together, they will create a neutral.
Sorry, my straps are kind of hurting.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think we might have to take a short intermission here so I can go grab a charger for my phone.
All right.
Let me go.
We'll do that.
Short intermission.
Intermission. Put the technical difficulties screen up.
Yeah, exactly. We're at 22 minutes and 7 seconds.
Bum 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 bum. Ba-na-na-na, bum 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 bum. Ba-na-na-na, dun 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 dun. Bernd is gone to get his charger for his phone. ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. So, Bernd, do you have anything else to say about the piece?
It's pretty.
I like it. I like the fact that I asked you and then immediately don't care, and I'm gonna move on with my own point.
Fine.
So the thing that I really enjoy about this piece, I've always really enjoyed featuring new artists, and Shaman Guli is one of those. I don't remember if I've managed to feature him since he made me that wonderful birthday present, but he is a really, really good artist when it comes to environments. And occasionally we have fans who message us, and they kind of stand out as fans with a lot of potential. That we look at and we go, wow. In a year or in 2 years, this artist is going to be really amazing. It's the kind of thing that we looked at with like Assassin Monkey. It's the kind of thing that we looked at with Agam Nensar. It's the kind of thing we looked at with Otaku AP. They have something there that's really special about them, and I think that Shaman Guli has that kind of reaction from me, at least. There's something really special there.
Yeah, he seems to really, really like these kind of like open, vast landscapes, and that's something that like you can just keep getting better and better at, and you can just keep making more and more epic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And then even some of the closer up pieces that he's done of ponies are good as well, and he'll get better at those over time the more he practices. So
Yeah.
that's really awesome. So thank you very much, Shaman Guli, for making this piece. Keep up the good work.
Gosh, wish we featured the Playground for a Princess, the one with Celestia. Really
Well, we
like
can
that
always
one.
feature it another time, Bernd.
Soon.
Soon.
Right. So now we're going to me, right?
Yep.
That's how this works.
The
Which
tonight
one's my
one.
next one? All right. So the next piece, the one that I chose, is called Tonight by, I believe it's Space Kitsch.
Space
Kitsch.
Yep.
And yeah, I really wanted to feature this artist for a while, and so I wanted to work this in the episode. I was actually watching a stream earlier today, and Tom and I suggested it, and I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. We're gonna do that. So here we have this little. It's basically a painting that she did of Luna, and I really like this painting. I think it's awesome. Like, I really like messy paintings. It's something that I've kind of started, obviously developed as I've been watching the show and been
Yeah.
looking at a lot of art. I have a soft spot for it, and there's just something so free about how this is kind of like painted and shaded, and I don't know, I really like it. Like, what do you think about it?
Well, I when you brought up this artist, it was really interesting because I'd never heard of her before, and she does some really interesting things when it comes to kind of manipulating almost like anatomy in a way in order to fit a certain style. So as you can see a little bit in this piece, but especially in some of our other pieces, it's almost like her ponies get kind of drippy, and so
Yeah.
like in one of her pieces, like the pony's legs and body are just kind of like these quick little slashes, even though the pony's head is completely like formed out. And in this one, the hair is kind of wispy, and in the same way, the pony's almost kind of wispy as well. Like the hair bleeds into the body with like obvious brush strokes, and on the outside of the mane there's also this kind of like I think it's called loose brush strokes, right?
Loose brushwork.
Yeah, so there's a lot of loose brushwork in all of her pieces, and it leads to some really interesting looking things because it looks very distinct, and it's got this almost sense of imperfection to it, like not imperfection isn't bad, but almost like an affectionate imperfection.
So
If you take a look at like her moon, for example, it's got like it's not round, it's got all of these like weird brush strokes, but it's just like it's close enough.
Yeah, so like a quick definition again on like loose brushwork, and then what you would call the opposite, which is tight brushwork. It's just a describing term that people use when talking about art, if you can see the artist's brush strokes. So like it's mainly meant for traditional artwork, but it still applies in digital because if the artist chooses not to basically hide or mask these digital brush marks that they've chosen to make. And what I really like about Space Sketch is she's not afraid to show her brushwork and these like really messy brush strokes and digital brushwork and stuff. In fact, in a lot of her pieces in her DeviantArt gallery, she uses these like kind of like messy, rough-edged brushes in Sai that have kind of like what White Diamonds uses in her backgrounds. Those like watercolor brushes that White Diamonds will use in her background. That's very key to her. Space Sketch uses that for everything when like painting and like characters and stuff, you know, on different spectrums. So there's, like you said, there's this really kind of like a beautiful imperfection with the edges of things and with outlines and how color blends together and like the looseness of the paint that I've become to like really, really like. And so that's kind of, again, why I wanted to give Space Skitch a feature on the episode today, because it's just like she has a lot of the works in her gallery are just like of like a character or of a pony, and she does a lot of commissions, shout out to that, and are of different OCs and stuff, and it's just like a pony painted, but it's the style she uses to paint those ponies, the like the brushes choice that she uses on those characters, and then something I really, really like that she chooses to do, and what actually caught my eye on her work, and when I first like stumbled on her DeviantArt gallery, caught my eye, I didn't actually intend that, but it did, is that when she draws eyes, they actually liquefies them. Again, how you said things kind of look liquidy and organic. She chooses to play with this kind of like liquefaction of the irises and pupils of her characters, where they'll swirl and like pinch, and they'll actually like start melting out of the character's eye or melting inside of the character's eye. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, I love really surreal stuff like that. And so that really, really caught my attention when I first stumbled on Space Skitch's gallery, because I really like interesting, unique style choices like that, where it's something that it's out of the ordinary, where it like catches you, and it's almost like plays with uncanny. And you see that again here in this piece a bit with Luna, where like her iris, instead of like her looking straight, it's like bent and warped down. So it's almost like as if she's looking straight, like up, like at the top of the moon, and almost down, like down below her, because like how her pupils kind of like warped, but
it's
like
split.
I don't really question it, you know, like she's looking in two different directions. I just look at it as kind of like a unique iris.
Well,
I've also heard the term wingding eyes, but you know what I mean.
I mean, like, I think one of the interesting things about it is that, okay, so Ted isn't on the podcast, and I've said interesting like 8 times. Like, okay, so what is an additional point to that is that these eyes almost border on being creepy because of the way that they kind of manipulate something that we all know, which is how eyes look like. And it takes that and it kind of shifts them slightly. But I think it instead of breaking your kind of immersion with that, it kind of bends it. You know, it kind of pushes on those boundaries of what eyes look like to where it looks kind of weird, but it doesn't look like, you know, like gross. You know? And I think that's a lot of that might just be like personal preference. I'm sure some people might look at it and go like, but you know, to me, it really does kind of skirt that fine line between manipulating facial features in weird and interesting ways and being creepy and falling on the wrong side of the uncanny valley.
Yeah, and like that's what I feel too, and that's kind of what I mean with like playing with that and kind of like uniqueness in features, because like someone could totally see like the melted iris and like some of her other pieces and be like, oh, like wow, that's a huge turnoff for me for like art that I enjoy. But like it instantly caught me as something like, wow, like that is an intentional choice, and I like that, and I think it's cool, and so I've really like gravitated toward a lot of her art recently.
Right.
But yeah, more in this piece in particular. Let's talk about like its art choice a little bit more. It actually has the same kind of thing in the last piece that we just featured with that Luna. It's doing that same thing. It's using aspects of kind of that blue, like purple blue, and then also that orange. And a little bit, there's a little bit more of like kind of the lighter blue in the hair, and then a more like deeper like orange in the bottom right of the piece, and also on the opposite parts of her hair. So it's playing again with that kind of complement, and then putting them side by side and kind of making this neutral zone in between. So like her upper mane is a really, really good spot to see that going on, where the left hand side is this kind of like really light blue, and then it transitions into kind of a neutral color, like a neutral grayish blue. And then you have her like coat color, whatever, and then it goes into a darker shade in her mane, and then there's some like this reddish, it's like almost reddish, peachish, orange kind of mixed in there, you know, like kind of that complement to play with the color of the mane. And it's awesome to see that in like a digital painting, because it's that concept that we always talk about, where it's like, don't shade in white in black, like shade with color, and like this is an awesome example of painting with that. With those like use of color complements, but done in like a really, really messy way, which I really, really enjoy. So
no, I think it's a really good point, and it's a really good piece. we do have to move on. So unless you have another point that you want to bring up, we should move on to the next piece.
Just for everyone to like look at the colors in Luna's body and in her wing too. There's a lot of really loose like violets and royal blues and actually like strokes of orange thrown in there and like outlining her crown and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of use of like really good complementary colors and stuff in there. So
yeah, cool. All right, so the next piece that we have is called. Is this mine? Oh gosh, I'm awful.
Overdrive.
Yes, so it's Overdrive by Volpesentia. So this is an artist, again, that I don't think we've really featured a lot, if at all, but who does some really awesome work. And this is a piece of vinyl scratch with some interesting markings, some interesting colors in this piece. And this one is, drastically different to both of the ones that we've had so far, but especially my other one before where we had more of like a landscape piece. So I picked this one to kind of be a huge contrast to that. We've got very dark scene with these very red colors, so red that it kind of overtakes the blue in Vinyl's hair, and the only blue that really stands out is the markings on her body that are glowing. And it's got this really interesting warping in the background, and perspective is really cool. So I really, I think this is one of those pieces that you can look at. And at first glance, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's this cool kind of edgy piece. But then when you really stare at it for a while, like it comes out at you like all of the different interesting things that are going on.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it has the folly to fall into this almost like I don't want to call it a trope, but like this certain like style choice or a way that a lot of artists have been using to represent vinyl scratch. Okay. It's kind of like from put my thoughts together there. But point being, I've seen a lot of artists like portray vinyl scratch with her her scratch table. What the heck is that called? DJ thing, synthesizer, turntable. Yeah, with their turntables, and then use that kind of like over exaggerated curve and bend. We've actually featured a couple pieces on the show where it's vinyl scratch doing something epic and like bending her like turntable and stuff.
And usually
so, like,
she's got a hoof forward.
Yeah, and I see that in this piece where it's a vinyl scratch, and then there's kind of like that bend of the turntable, and like she's like spinning it or scratching it or whatever the heck. But it's done again in a unique way and in this artist's unique way. It's not done like these other artists that I'm talking about or in these other representations I've seen in vinyl scratch. I just see that kind of like that use of kind of like that epic bend in the turntable.
Yeah.
But again, like it's not a bad thing. It's just like
it's interesting to notice the similarities that between different artists. So yeah, I think something very interesting about this piece is the kind of, again, the overtones of such red and like deep warm colors, despite the fact that vinyl is not a warm colored pony. She's got very cool colors in her mane. The only thing that is warm colored on her is her red eyes, although I'm pretty sure they're purple, aren't they? So it's really amazing to me that there's so much that they managed to get vinyl in an environment in which she looks warm. And a lot of that comes from the lighting on her body, but there's also this, not an overlay, because an overlay is like an oversimplification, but there's almost like an overlay of like a darker, warmer color on top of her hair that makes it not stand out as much as the cool color, which it normally is.
The colors that the artist chose to do are a lot different than like your show accurate vinyl, but you can still tell that those are like vinyl's colors, but then they like fit the mood and the color of this like of this area that she's placed in in this environment. So like I mean like even her coat and whatnot is kind of that that warm red, and then her hair kind of what's interesting to me is her hair actually almost looks warm because it's like this kind of green and like its color so something interesting about the cyan that she's got like these little robotic like power lines going through her and stuff. like Cyborg Tron-esque lines.
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting about that cyan is depending on what you do with it and what colors it's next to, it can actually shift from a warm to a cool. But there's so much, I mean, this piece is so warm, there's so much red and yellow in the background that it makes that color seem very cool, you know?
Well, I almost feel like those glowing robotic cyan bits almost help to make her hair look less cool. Because when you contrast them, you look at the cyan and you're like, that's definitely a cool color. And then you look at it, especially like in the horn and the face and the ears, and you look at them in comparison, you're like, oh, okay, well, the hair is warmer than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really cool piece. I like the usage of, again, kind of like less detailed backgrounds. There's like a very digital background. You've got those perfect square bars that are then, they're obviously very digitally like copied and made, and then they're warped in an interesting way. So it's almost like it takes something that is completely unnatural, adds another thing that's unnatural, and makes it look not like natural, but it kind of gives it that sense of like the perfect imperfection that oftentimes you need in a piece in order for it to look more realistic or look more believable.
I feel like all this warping and bending of things in the background, what really takes this piece from being something that would be kind of like a boring, straight, rigid piece and turns it into something that is actually interesting and has a feeling of like power,
Yeah.
Because like you take these things, like speakers and like turntables and whatnot that would have like straight, rigid geometric shapes, and the artist has again chosen to take it and like bend them and warp them in ways, especially with like those, what are those, like level bars in the background, for audio or whatnot, is what I would think they are.
Sure.
I also really like the outlines, the really bright outlines. Like again, like I've probably said this 100 bloody times on the show, but
I'm the pony or
for really bright outlines on the pony as well, like on the hairs, but on the hair on her mane, but also on the speakers.
Yeah,
like
that's
that
what I
kind
was
of
going to
bright
say. The
yellow and
speakers
red.
really. The speakers were definitely something that I looked at and was like, they're almost like, they've got this inconsistency to the color and this almost bleeding out of the color that almost makes it look like it's alive, It's got that, or that it's like moving around or warping. It gives a sense of motion. To me, almost it looks like this, like almost like magmic, like lava-esque in a weird way.
Yeah.
So, another interesting usage of certain techniques which can convey motion. So that's really, really interesting. So yeah, I'm basically done talking about the piece. How about you?
I like it. I think it's pretty. It's very interesting.
I guess one more thing. Vulpacentia is an artist which reminds me a lot of another artist which I love. So I'm a huge fan of Fox and Shadow. That was a really coincidental cough burn. Wow, you should get that checked
I know, it's weird.
So I am a really big fan of Fox and Shadow, and if you take a look, it's not super present in this piece, but if you take a look at a lot of her other art pieces, you can see kind of a resemblance there, perhaps an inspiration there. So that's really cool. I like how the artist has taken a style that is kind of similar to Fox and Shadows, but then she's kind of added on top of that, and I do think that she's kind of made it her own. Kind of taken the good bits out and then added in some of her own personality.
Like
so
I like seeing what artists do with stuff like that. Like there's that concept like imitation is the biggest form of flattery or whatever, or do something unique, but it's like you can take an artist that you really, really like and enjoy and kind of use a style similar to theirs and then adapt it into your own. So it's like you can tell like by looking at this artist that there's a lot of things that like look very similar to Fox and Shadow style, but the artist is still like doing their own thing and like developing their own style and drawing things in their own unique ways. You can see with this piece and like a lot of other pieces in their gallery. Like one I really like is Benighted with like Luna. It's very cool. I like the colors in that one a lot.
Yeah.
And then I mean you see the same thing with like a Trill and Sidon, where Sidon's gone his own way and he's he's made his own developed thing, but he's sprouted off a Trill's style,
Yeah.
And so like you see that a lot in like artists when you have someone who really looks up to them. And I mean if that artist is inspiring you to do work, like a Fox and Shadow is really driving this artist to keep making awesome work, like power to you. That's awesome. I'm sure
Absolutely.
Fox and Shadow is like honored, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I think we're gonna move on after this, but the thing that really stands out to me about Volpacenta over Fox and Shadow is that I think she likes to experiment with wider ranges of color, and
yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that point.
it can lead to interesting things such
Yeah,
as this piece.
Fox and Shadow definitely likes to lead like the more dulled down colors and stuff, where Placenta really likes to push this like warm and cool, this like red and blue. You see it in her OCs, and you see it in like this piece, and then the Luna piece I was talking about. Yeah, definitely see that.
Likes her red and blues. All right, so the last art piece is your one, Bernd.
Hey. So this is a piece I actually want to feature for a little while. I tried to feature it last week, but then for the Valentine's thing day, I switched it up. So this piece is Stare Out Peak, right? Stare Out Peak.
Yep.
And it's by Jowie Bean, who's a good friend of the show. And I really like this piece. I feel like Jowie Bean's just been getting. He's one of those fans of the show like we've been watching and like looking at like paying attention to his gallery, and he's just been getting better and better and better.
Right.
And like this piece is awesome. I love it. I mean, it's breathtaking to me. Like looking at his work like 2 years ago, right when he was first a fan of the show. Like Silver just made that little fan group of us on DeviantArt, and I was getting super nostalgia because pieces were getting added into that, and I had watched it, and then I was seeing like this fan art, some of our first fan art that we've ever received back in like 2012, right, 2013, that Jowie Bean had made and stuff, and then I'm looking at this now, and it's like, wow, like he has a legitimate like arty job. He was telling me about it, I forget what it was, and so like he's been doing that, and he's been making all this awesome pony art, and it's awesome. So yeah, so I just really like this piece. I like the color. It's that kind of like messy, crazy, and it's like we say like loose brushwork. Jowie Bean definitely has that loose brushwork, but there's something really, really unique about Jowie Bean's brushwork that we used to talk about way back in the day. But he's kept that, and he's now adapted it into something very unique that you can see in this one, where there's like so much use of like color, different colors and different brushstrokes, like put in kind of this crazy, chaotic mess, which ends up making sense in this like very beautiful way, and like you see that in this cliff underneath Rainbow Dash, and then in Cloudsdale and the clouds in the background, and it's just awesome stuff. And like even the perspective he has on this with this like intensely epic scale of like the land going backwards and the waterfall falling from Camelot all the way to the bottom part of the picture and the clouds like creating this epic sense of atmosphere. Like there's just so much stuff done so awesomely in this piece.
Yeah. So the thing with Jowie Bean for me is I feel like his stuff is very hit or miss. And the interesting thing is when it is a hit, it's a very big hit. And this is definitely one of those pieces where I feel like it was a huge, huge hit. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I wanted to feature it on the show. Now, 3 weeks ago or whatever, you brought it up, and so you said you wanted to feature it, so I let you feature it. But this was definitely on my list of things to feature because it does stand out to me, and it really seems like a lot of the times Jowie Bean puts out these amazing title cards. He's got a series of title cards that he does that basically where he takes every single episode of MLP and he makes these kind of like, I don't know how to describe it other than title card. Google title card or go look at his gallery. And so anyways, he puts in so much amazing detail into these, and it's this big spectacular finished completed piece. And then when he puts out his other stuff, they're kind of like fun little doodles, conceptual stuff, some different stuff. And then this piece came along, and I feel like this is of the same quality as his title cards, but it's not a title card.
Yeah.
So that's what really stood out to me was just the level of quality that he put into this piece was so much higher than I think the average thing that he puts out because a lot of the stuff that he puts out is just kind of works in progress and sketches and doodles. Yeah.
Behind the City of Rulers. Okay, it looks like so this is like a secondary piece to another piece that he did. So it looks like he did another epic like landscape piece with Twilight looking up and into the mountain where Canterlot is. That's very epic and vast. And so this is another piece with the opposite angle where we're looking down into the valley rather than up at something. You know, so looking down on something grand rather than up to it, which is again pretty cool. I also just noticed the train in the bottom right. I didn't notice that before.
The train that's going from there. I like the concept of the clouds because there's Cloudsdale in the background, or at least I think that's Cloudsdale, right?
Yeah, I mean I see like little hints and stuff of buildings and columns.
Right,
I mean it could just be clouds, but
Cloudsdale-esque clouds
like
in the
it's clouds.
background
Yeah.
are one
Yeah.
thing, but then you've got these other clouds in the foreground, and what that does is it gives you a sense of height. I don't look at those clouds and say, "Wow, those are super low clouds." I look at those clouds and say, "Wow, Rainbow Dash is so high up," and
Yeah.
"Wow, Canterlot is so high up," and "Wow, that train is so high up." So it gives you this sense of depth. You get the kind of distance depth when you take a look at like the background. You can kind of see how far the land goes on, but then you get kind of this vertical depth as well that the clouds give you, and that is really interesting. How you have this kind of this double layer of depth.
I can see that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I will come out and say when Jowie Bean does some of his crazy facial stuff with the ponies, it's not always my favorite thing. So I love how he did Rainbow Dash in this piece. The expression is great. The
Yeah, very
wings are
serious.
great. The pose is great. It conveys a lot of motion. It's simple, So the colors
kind
are
of
really
like-
awesome. If you take a look at her tail, there's all these crazy
yeah.
loose
Strands and stuff.
loose brushworks.
Blush.
And yeah, I really like a lot of I like all of this piece, which I think again speaks to Joey Bean's kind of hit or miss attitude, which is definitely a hit on this. Also, this came out February 9th, so there's no way that we've wanted to feature this for 3 weeks. I completely and utterly lied.
It's more like 4. Anyway, something else
Your
very
math
notable.
sucks.
Something
1.
else very notable about this one as well is the color. I really like the color too, because you have this very strong sense of blue given by the clouds and the sky and Rainbow Dash, and then a very strong sense of like violet, which is assigned to these mountains, and then the green in the background given in that field and the vastness. So you have like this kind of this 3-part color scheme, like kind of working together, the violet, blue, and green, like playing really well together and doing awesome. Obviously there's other like yellows and stuff thrown in there, but it ends up being very pretty, and everything kind of like stands out and it reacts with each other. So since everything is such a different like contrasting color from its other detail, they really like bounce off of each other and kind of stick to their own like aspect or existence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they have their own places in the piece.
Yeah, so they all resonate with each other, and it ends up being very, very pretty as well, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, I do enjoy how there seems to be kind of like a theme to each little, like, quadrant isn't the right word because it's not a quarter of the piece,
Yeah.
but each little section of the piece has their own kind of like theme, which is really cool.
Yep. So awesome work, Joey Bean. Like, I love seeing stuff like this. This is great.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, this is sweet.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, is that everything?
That's what I have to say.
All right, so that is all of the art for this week. Again, I have no semblance of time, so I'm not sure if we're supposed to be moving on to the questions or
We've
not.
been going for
so...
52 minutes and 30 seconds, and some of that was cut out.
All right, that is good timing. So whatever. If we go over, I don't really care. You're editing this week, and we didn't keep track.
Audacity's
So.
only had about 2 minutes, so.
Okay, cool. So we've got 2 questions this week. One of them's silly, one of them's more serious. So which one do you want to go with first, Bernd?
Oh, I gotta go to the top of the page. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can just say silly or serious. Do you want to do serious first and end on
Let's do
silly?
serious first, then we'll end on the silly note.
Cool. So the very first question is from Ramislack, our resident Swede, and
Sweden?
he asks, Let's try that again. Has your view on art in general changed during these 100+ episodes? So I think it's fair to say everyone on the podcast, not just us two, would probably say yes.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. I mean, when we started this podcast, we were woefully inept and woefully unprepared, I guess, for what we were getting into.
And uneducated.
Well, I mean, the thing is, apparently I've got 20% battery. Nice. So the thing is, like, that's kind of what our show was, and to a certain extent, that's kind of what our show is. You know, we are learning art, and we invite you to come along with us on our journey. You know, we're not some sort of like crazy big entity that knows everything and like, you know, like.
That's what I do though. It's just like.
But yeah, but even so, like we're still. I'd like to think that we're still kind of down to earth about it, and we're still.
Yeah. No.
You know, we're still relatable to the community. So, you know, but what that means is that we didn't know what we were getting into, and so we've learned so much over the last 137 episodes that, of course, our views have changed.
Like, I've taken, like, lots of college courses and art classes and stuff since we've started the show. The show itself encouraged me and inspired me to take those art college courses and look into art. Like, when I started talking about art, I was looking into the things that I was saying and like wanted to say and learn about, and then as I learned something I would bring it back to the show. So every time I would learn some kind of like fact or something, it would change a little bit of how I view something or how cool I thought something was, where it's like, oh, I learned this thing about composition, and then I would see that in works of pony art where I didn't appreciate it before. Like, art for me has been this huge thing of appreciation, right? Because there's that thing. It's even a college course, art appreciation.
That's
where
funny.
when I didn't have this knowledge and like depth of like how to do art and how to make it, I didn't have a huge appreciation for a lot of these different art pieces. I would just look at it and go like, ooh, that's pretty. But I didn't know why that's pretty. But then once I started to recognize why all these things like were pretty and were beautiful, and why I really respected like messy artworks like I do now, and like clean artworks and others, that I created a huge appreciation for all this artwork. So like that's kind of what I like to think our show does, is bring all this appreciation to the community. You know, like two different bronies who might watch their show and like, wow, I never noticed that in this pony piece, that's so cool. And like that's really what I hope for, that when people watch this and kind of strive for, to kind of like point out this awesome effect or thing that I've learned, and then someone else will see that and be like, oh, like, wow, you know.
Yeah, I agree, and you know, none of us, I think, I'm not sure about you, Bernd, I won't talk about you, but I know like myself and Ted, we all, before this show, we all kind of looked at art and we said, that's really interesting, I like looking at it, but it's not something that I consider myself, you know, terribly associated with or entrenched with or whatever, you know. Even the stuff that we were doing was vector art, so it was more about creating a resource than it was assessing art pieces. And so what the show has really brought to me, especially, is it's, you know, brought an appreciation of art, like you said, but it's also just made art kind of like an important part of my life, and it's really taught me that, like, you know, you don't have to be an amazing artist to have art be a part of your life and to really incorporate it in your life. So that kind of, I mean, trying to circle this back around to the question here, so has our view on art in general changed? Yes, because not just our preferences have changed, but also just how we look at pieces as well, what we appreciate about pieces, because we've learned what to look for. After looking at, you know, what's 137 times 4? We've looked at over 400.
Yeah.
We've looked at like over 400 different art pieces.
Our fan art episodes kind of bump that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, that's just in episode. Doing the podcast has caused us to keep up with more artists and see more art. And so, you know, we've looked at like probably over 1,000 art pieces that we wouldn't have normally, just because of this show. And so that kind of lends us to experience looking at art pieces. And we've all learned slowly what our preference was, because we didn't allow ourselves before to look at and appreciate art in such a way that we could form proper preferences.
Yep. Like, man, like, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I am watching over 1,300 artists on DeviantArt. Like, and those are all mostly brony artists, mind you. Like, that I go through so much copious amounts of brony artwork nowadays, and it's ridiculous. And just like you said, when we first started, I like looked at some cute vectors, and I liked some cute vectors. I'm like, wow, that's really show accurate and so clean. That's cool. I didn't really think anything else, you know.
Yeah.
And then now that I have this like appreciation, I've been so engrossed and entrenched in all this brony artwork that, like, yes, my view has, my view actually started existing. You know, like I couldn't have cared less before we started, and now that we have started, it's my life. Like, it's all over my room. Like, here, like, look at this. Like, look. I mean, hold on. I mean, look at my shelf. Like, look at all this stuff on my shelf. Like, all this friggin' ridiculous like brony artwork and stuff up there, and that thing on my wall, like that.
Oh yeah, that
like
thing, totally.
Most important thing in my life. I don't know. That's a big statement, but one of like a huge part of my life. And
Is it the painting that you bought?
Yeah, it's my painting. Like that, I can't even begin to express how important that thing is to me and how much it represents of the 4-something years that we've spent doing this podcast. 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. So.
God, 3 years.
Right.
Killer. All right, so that was a good question. I'd like to think that it was good answers, but I guess that's not really up to us to decide.
Yeah. That was great answers. I decide this.
Bernd, you may not be the question master, but you're the answer master. So
I am. Thank you.
All right.
Man, it makes me so happy, by the way, when you guys ask me things. Like, every time Ted is like, man, I think this, but hey, Bernd, is this true? And it's just like, oh, yes. Please. Ask me things. Oh, my God.
Did you just... All right. Cool.
Sounds good, bro. Moving forward.
Let's please move past that as fast as possible and not replay it 3 times while I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Brent. All right, so the second question is, if you had to ship yourselves with each other, who would you ship with, and who would you ship each other with? And that came from Grave Shovel.
Grave Shovel.
Who
That's a new name I haven't heard before.
I've never heard that name before. I think it's a newer question. Great
Congratulations.
name.
This is your first question on the show, Grave Shovel. Appreciate it. Shout out to Grave Shovel. Let's get a spam in the chat.
Shout out to Grave Shovel. It's a great username.
Right?
So my thought was, instead of looking at like shipping, shipping like us with other people from the show, right? It's just you and me, right, Bernd? So, I mean, we have to ship each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't you hide behind your bottle. Move your bottle.
Oh,
I want to look at you in the face.
There we go.
All right. So, I mean, we have to ship each other. So why don't we twist this question a little bit? What do you think our relationship would be like as ponies?
As horses, our horse relationship.
You can base it off of our totally real life relationship.
Man, I'm not quite sure. Because it's like, we've had this relationship since we've gotten to know each other on the show, whereas, like, you're the host guy, right? Like, you're the guy who, like says things and gets us together, is, like, the kind of, like, dominant figure in the relationship, right? Where
okay, yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
I've always been this, I've always, like, known just, like, stuff about art, and it's like, man, I really love this, and I just want to, like, talk about it. And then you've always been this, like, person where it's like, yeah, Bernd's like, you're here and you can talk about the art and you're great, but it's like you gotta stick to the time, you know.
So what you're saying is, in a relationship, I would be the dominant one and you'd be the submissive one.
I feel like you would always want to be the dominant one and be like, hey, like, you need to stick to this thing, and then I'd be like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, it wouldn't be that you are the dominant figure, but it would be that you want to be, and then I would just be like, I'm gonna do what I want. And
I am the half Batman, and
or
I can
you'd
do
be
what I
like
want.
Bernd, you can't eat that. Like, don't eat the hamburger in public. You're like, it's not your hamburger, and it'd be like don't do it, Bernd. Like, oh.
Don't eat that hamburger. Like, ponies are vegetarians and you're being a cannibal. Like,
that's exactly what would be our relationship. Like, don't do that, Bernd. You can't do that. Like, Bernd, we gotta end the show. Stop ranting. And I'm just like, I'm gonna do it.
I think the funny thing is that our relationship in real life is one of, like, you kind of have these ups and downs, but you're always kind of together. So like, we'll oppose each other on something where it's like, oh, Bernd, you have to, like, we're on a podcast, you've got to shut up, and then
Yeah.
you're like, no, I'm going to keep rambling, and so
Yeah.
that's when we're like far apart. But we have, like, more often than I have with like most other people, we have these like really like these moments of what I'm going to call intimacy. We have these intimate little moments where we just like talk about like real stuff, and like we really like connect on this like personal level,
Yeah.
you know? So we have those moments apart and we have those moments together. So we have these big swings back and forth, but I feel like we're always on the same path, you know? We're two fish swimming in a stream,
All right.
and sometimes we're close together and sometimes we're far apart, but at the end of the day we always get there together.
All right. It's a very beautiful representation.
It's
I like
beautiful.
that.
It's beautiful.
All right.
It's beautiful. All right, let's make out.
Bleh.
All right.
Kiss.
So, wait. Where's my OC? Oh God, I've got barely any pants on. Get your OC. Are you ready for this? We're gonna make them kiss you on
Oh, how do
camera.
we do this? Oh, like.
Oh
on
no,
the
you gotta
thing?
do the. You gotta do the.
Uh,
You can't show me up, man. You can't show me up on my own show.
can I
All
like
right.
put this on his head?
All right. All right.
Little
You ready?
circ?
Are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah,
Go for it. Go for it. Mwah.
God.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
And on that day, 15,000 fan fictions were written. Great. All right. Well, I think that is basically the end of the show then, on that extremely awkward and cringy note.
Yeah, right? Give the internet something to cringe about. Let me just make my stuffed horse OC make out with your stuffed horse OC.
But
Oh
via
my
the internet.
goodness.
It's not even in person either.
Please. Like, it was something really weird. We can talk about this for a moment. My parents have been showing the show to their friends and, like, family friends, right? And, like, my grandmother's friends.
I need to show
And
this show to my family, really.
my parents showed my grandmother and my grandmother's best friend that last episode where we recorded each other, the RnB show. They showed that episode to them because they're like, look, this has Bernd on like his webcam so you can see him, because she didn't see like a lot of pictures of me, so she got
Right.
to see me like doing like thing and talking about our horse show. So it's like we're here making out with our fake stuffed horse OCs, and my parents are probably gonna show this to someone somewhere out there. Hopefully they don't watch the whole hour and they watch
Look,
20
look,
minutes
man.
and they go, oh, those first 20 minutes are really cute, but I'm not gonna watch the part where he makes out with horses.
Look, man, okay? First of all, okay, there's 3 points here. First of all,
Yeah.
you shouldn't care. Second of all, my first 20 minutes were wearing stupid wings. Like, you can't beat me, you know? Like, you're always going to be contrasted to the idiot wearing
Oh,
wings for
God.
the first 20 minutes.
Ugh.
And third of all, you brought up a good point, which is I haven't actually showed my family any of this show, and I probably should.
Doesn't exist. Hopefully they don't look for any of the things that exist to me on the internet.
Well,
Like
okay.
Jesus.
That yes, that. But like you know,
Thanks to know.
I should show my family this show. You know, it's an accomplishment. We've been doing this for 137 weeks. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm as much as I joke about it, I'm hugely proud of this, and like
Yeah, yeah. And
forget
also,
what everyone else thinks.
like I keep talking to them about like my friends, and they just know you by like name vaguely. So like
Yeah.
Bernd's the German one, right? Who lives in Seattle, and I'm like close enough. I'm like close enough, really.
He's that one German guy who
Yeah.
lives somewhere in Seattle. He's
And
that
I was like,
hipster, right?
German heritage, not Seattle, close enough. So it's like
Spot on.
my
like it.
my mom knows things by like based on like who I visited. So like, you know,
Yep.
2013 was you, and then 2014 and a couple times after was Ted,
Yeah.
and then the Australian ones are Silver and Joel. So she knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's it. I should show them this show.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna
We
do
need a
that. I'm gonna
really,
do that. I'm
really
gonna, I'm
good
gonna
episode.
promise them right now. I will show them. Maybe not this episode,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I'm gonna take this excerpt from the very end and then like edit it into one single episode. And I'm gonna send it to them on Facebook.
Send it to them on
I have you on
Facebook.
Facebook. I could find them.
Oh God, you can do that too. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
All right, that's not true. My mom doesn't have the same last name as me, so good luck. Oh God, now you know
It's
that.
it's under family. Like you.
I don't think I have
Facebook
them
is
as
amazing
family.
for stalking, by the way. Can
I don't
just
think
throw
I
that
have
out
them
there?
under family.
All right.
It's because my Facebook account's like new, right? So. Can we do a podcast where we don't talk about art and we just talk like this for an hour?
Yeah, we'll have to do it on the YouTube though.
We've
Or
been
maybe we'll just
talking
do a
about it for like
podcast.
so long, and we've just never done it. But we could fill an hour.
What we could do is we could bring guests on the show, like artist guests, and be like, "Hey, do you want to have an interview?" They're like, "Nah, I don't really want to have an interview. You want to BS with us for an hour and just talk about stuff?" Like, yeah. Then we could just do that.
Yeah.
We could just have a podcast
do
where
that.
we just talk with some random artist.
The problem is we're not popular enough to like support a second show, so whatever. Anyways, enough real talk. My God, our show's ending. Done. Okay, so plugs. All right, so we have a YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. You can go there to check out all of our episodes, past episode 100. But we should have a playlist there with all of our episodes in it. So go check that out. We also have a Picarto. We're Cutie Art Crusaders on Picarto, so go check us there. Check us out there. We stream these episodes live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't know what that is in your time, Google it. We also have a DeviantArt, which is kind of like our home base, cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, where you can go and check out all of our favorites folders and fun stuff. You can see kind of the sources of each art piece each week. What else is there? There is our social media, which is Facebook, where we're Cutie Art Crusaders, Tumblr, where we're also Cutie Art Crusaders, and finally Twitter, where we are at Cutie Art Crusade. And we also have an email account, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. You can send us in questions, art pieces, and anything else you want to via that. So yeah, we got many places where you can contact us, so feel free to hit us up on any of those. So yeah, that's our plugs.
Do that.
I'm just assuming that you're doing like silly stuff to the camera that entire time. So yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's everything for this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this special webcam episode. We don't do these very often. We're probably going to do them just when it's just you and me, Bernd, so we'll see how often that happens. I like it. It's like a tradition now.
Yes.
Hopefully, so remember, you need to write in the comments that Ted is a jerk because he didn't take Max to Barbados. Make sure to leave at least 4 comments telling us how attractive we are, because our self-esteem is really quite low at this point.
My ego isn't inflated enough, please, people. I need this.
Yeah, it needs to be inflated enough that it's like tight like Bernd's shirt. You know, like Bernd doesn't like loose shirts and he doesn't like loose egos.
Don't make fun of me, man, about that, right? It's a self-confidence thing.
You had a clip, Bernd. You were gonna clip your shirt.
It was tape. All right.
All right. So yeah, that's everything for this week. Thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're on Picarto or YouTube. We love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Bernd.
And we'll see you guys next week. Make a stupid face and wave, Bernd.